All right, let's dive right into today's explainer. We are unpacking the rapidly escalating geopolitical crisis between the United States and Iran, and we're going to trace exactly how distant military strikes can directly impact your wallet. We're looking at a situation that is moving at absolute lightning speed. It's not just about military bases and missile trajectories anymore. It's about a cascading series of events, a literal domino effect that threatens to reshape global economics, upend our supply chains, and redefine diplomatic relations practically overnight.
So here is the domino effect we'll be following today. We're covering the five-nation escalation, the Hormuz choke point, the $250 oil threat, Washington's deflection, and finally, India's crude oil dilemma.
Starting right off with Section 1, the five-nation escalation and Iran's retaliatory strikes. Now, we really need to look at the geographic spread of this conflict. Iran is explicitly targeting U.S. military bases across 5 very specific Arab nations: Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Qatar, and Oman. What is happening on the ground right now goes far beyond localized skirmishes. Iran is actively proving its reach. But there's a fascinating secondary layer to this military action. The local governments in these targeted nations are actively suppressing the video footage of these missile strikes. They absolutely want to ensure that these alarming visuals don't hit the international media, primarily to protect their global reputations. They're desperate to avoid being seen as unsafe or unstable, prioritizing their international image even while missiles are actively falling within their own borders. So the crucial takeaway here is that Iran is holding a strategic red line. Right now, they've deliberately avoided hitting Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, specifically Dubai. They're basically holding this back as their ultimate trump card. But if the United States decides to escalate by bringing in the Navy for a direct attack on Iran, that red line gets crossed. The moment that happens, analysts indicate Iran is fully prepared to unleash a massive barrage of missiles directly onto the UAE and Saudi Arabia. That would turn a somewhat contained retaliation into a massive regional conflagration. Moving right along to Section 2, the Strait of Hormuz choke point, a massive strategic bottleneck. Before we get into the heavy economics, we really need to understand the intense diplomatic rhetoric happening in the background regarding nuclear capabilities and international inspections. When asked if Iran would be comfortable with international inspectors checking their uranium enrichment and nuclear sites under the terms of previous deals, the Iranian foreign minister's response was incredibly blunt. He stated that any inspectors must first be sent to Israel, and if they find nuclear weapons there, Iran claims it will simply build them too. Now, while this was reported via a news outlet rather than an official state broadcast, it perfectly highlights the severe lack of trust and the extremely high-stakes nuclear posturing that's accelerating right alongside these conventional military strikes. And then you have this stark terminology from an advisor to Iran's supreme leader. Just listen to how they describe the strategic power they hold over this narrow waterway. They are openly acknowledging that while the whole world is fixated on the threat of atomic weapons, the real weapon of mass destruction here is economic. By keeping the Strait of Hormuz locked, which is the route where a massive percentage of the world's oil flows, Iran realizes it can inflict catastrophic damage on the global system without ever dropping a single bomb. They view this blockade as their ultimate leverage. Which brings us to Section 3, the $250 oil threat and its global economic impact. This is the absolute core of the economic fallout, and exactly why this regional dispute matters to you and consumers worldwide. If the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked for an extended period, analysts project the price of crude oil could skyrocket to an unprecedented $250 per barrel. Just let that number sink in for a second. $250. This isn't just a slight, annoying uptick at the gas pump. This is a fundamental rewriting of global energy costs. With ships currently being attacked while trying to transit the strait, first by the US and now by Iran, the free flow of oil is grinding to a very dangerous halt. Because a blockade here doesn't just hurt governments, it practically guarantees massive global inflation that could take decades to repair. If oil actually hits $250 a barrel, the cost of manufacturing, shipping, and producing basic goods is going to explode. The disruption to global supply chains would be so profound that economists are warning the damage might take decades to untangle. This is why a distant waterway is literally the most important piece of economic geography on Earth right now. A prolonged closure means inflation rates that no central bank can easily fix. Okay, let's look at Section 4, Washington's political deflection and how they are navigating the crisis. So you've got a massive disconnect right now. In a recent CNN interview, when pressed about the blockade, Donald Trump firmly deflected the question. He claimed the strait is open and pivoted the conversation entirely. The interviewer directly asked him about the reality on the ground, the fact that Iran is attacking 5 countries and the Strait of Hormuz is effectively blocked. Instead of addressing this, Trump insisted the strait was completely open and stated he simply did not want to talk about it. He had previously tweeted that the strait was open, which prompted this sort of premature relief in the markets. But the gaping disconnect between the official Washington stance and the physical reality of ships being targeted in the waterway is creating massive uncertainty for the entire global economy. What's crucial to understand about that interview is that Trump actually used the tragic passing of his close friend, Senator Lindsey Graham, to pivot away from the economic crisis and honor the late senator. When journalists tried to press him on whether the strait was open or closed, which is a simple question to help the world economy gauge its trajectory, Trump deflected by saying he didn't want to discuss it out of respect for Graham's life and legacy. But beyond just being a rhetorical pivot point in a press conference, the death of Senator Graham is in and of itself a colossal geopolitical event that shifts the entire landscape in Washington.
Presenting these facts neutrally, Senator Graham was a highly influential figure who championed very aggressive foreign policies. His death leaves global markets guessing about America's next move. He was known for incredibly hard-line stances. He openly advocated for dropping nuclear bombs on Iran and pushed heavily for strict sanctions against India. With his passing, a major voice advocating for extreme, forceful intervention is suddenly gone from the inner circles of U.S. policy. This absence creates a massive variable in how the U.S. will respond to the ongoing crisis. The whole world is watching closely to see if U.S. foreign policy will soften or if it's going to find a new champion for those aggressive strategies.
Let's move on to our final piece of the puzzle, Section 5, India's crude oil dilemma, trapped right in the middle. Think about the impossible math major importers like India are facing right now. With the Gulf blocked and Russian oil facing a 500% U.S. tariff threat, nations are practically being strong-armed into buying from Venezuela. They can't realistically purchase oil from the Gulf countries because the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. Their backup plan would naturally be to buy heavily from Russia. However, the United States is preparing to pass a new bill that would slap a massive 500% tariff on nations purchasing Russian oil. It's a geopolitical checkmate. It leaves massive consumers like India with their hands totally tied, virtually forcing the entire global market to pivot toward purchasing crude oil from Venezuela, simply by a process of elimination. So looking ahead, we have a very grim potential timeline of escalations to monitor, one that could drag the U.S. and Israeli militaries into a full-scale conventional war. Tonight, all eyes are on whether the U.S. will launch a massive retaliatory strike on Iran. If they do, Step 2 is almost a guarantee. Iran unleashes its Red Line missile barrage on the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Step 3 would be the anticipated third-wave attack from the Israeli Air Force, expected to be a massive operation against Iran. This rapid sequence of events could effortlessly spiral into Step 4, a full-scale conventional war involving U.S. and Israeli ground forces. We are basically sitting on a powder keg and the fuse is lit. I want to leave you with this provocative thought because it highlights the dire need for diplomatic transparency as the world navigates this chaotic domino effect. In a time when a single waterway can cripple global economics and when official narratives drastically contradict the military realities on the ground, transparency isn't just a political buzzword, it is essential for global survival. Can our interconnected supply chains genuinely withstand this kind of pressure?
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Diverse Diplomacy. See you next time.